to the worldwide transmission of the GBC with the Honorable WMII.
Greetings. Welcome again, everyone. I'm extremely humbled and gratified to be your host today of the GBC. As always, I must say that it is a pleasure coming before the whole entire world, giving you the stories that you may have missed and giving you some stories that you may need to know. First off, as always, I want to thank Preach the Word Worldwide Network for the opportunity to be presenting our worldwide broadcast to you tonight. Also, in addition, I would like to thank Debo Studios. They do a fantastic job with us. Also, I'd like to thank all my sponsors and partners. I'm really appreciative of this opportunity to come before you. In addition, speaking of sponsorships, if any of you would like to sponsor with us, feel free to email me, thehonorablewm2@gmail.com. We'll be glad to talk with you and let you know our sponsorship rates as we look forward to putting your message out there across the world as well. We've been reading a lot in the news about spikes in coronavirus cases. There are a lot of talks. Some states have reopened, and there's some talk about, hey, you guys are reopening, but we're having spikes going on across the country. To be honest with you, I'm just a little personal note. I missed about 3 good trips. One to Universal Studios in Florida, a few to the beach. That I take yearly, different trips I take. And I missed quite a few trips sitting in the house with the coronavirus going out among the world. But nevertheless, I know it's all for our safety. As the country is reopening, hopefully I can make up those trips. But one thing I noticed with the coronavirus situation that's going on, sometimes I do have to go out to the stores and buy, food and necessities for, my household. And just mentioning Walmart, for example, one of the stores is Walmart. When you go to Walmart, there's been some changes in Walmart. When you go in, there's like a barrier gate before you go in, what lets you in. Also there's just like different changes that Walmart has put in place. But there's a change that Walmart is also considering, which getting into our first story today. And it states that Walmart looks to remove all cashiers from their stores. As you've seen in Walmart, they have a lot of self-checkout areas, which I'm a big fan of because sometimes close contact and you don't know if these people may be washing their hands or whatnot. So sometimes close contact, can cause that coronavirus as well, especially with this pandemic going around. But the self-checkouts are really, I think it's a good thing. I always like self-checkouts to a certain extent. I can get in and get out. I don't have to wait in line. But on the flip side of that, that could be people getting laid off or their jobs being in jeopardy. So I can see both sides of that issue. Getting into our article here, again, it says that Walmart looks to remove all cashiers from the stores. And it reads, Walmart is testing a store that will only offer self-checkout. The retailer is removing cashiers and standard conveyor belt lines at one of its popular stores in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Now, one thing about belt lines, I go to different stores, not just Walmart, but lately I have been seeing, I'm kind of a germaphobe, to be honest with you. Lately I've been seeing whenever that conveyor belt, you have the cashiers, they're spraying it off, they're wiping it down, and I just love to see stuff like that. Normally in the past, you would see conveyor belts looking sticky and icky and, all types of people placing their different foods and chemicals on it, and you're putting your food and bringing it back into your house and maybe getting contaminated. But the fact that good thing about coronavirus, I will say, it is causing people to be much more cleaner and to sanitize a lot of things. A lot of restaurants that are out there now, they're wearing face masks now, so you don't have to worry about nobody talking over your food. I'm going to get off my germophobiness, so let me get back to this article. It says Walmart says it's an attempt to see if checkout times are faster while limiting human interaction in the age of coronavirus. So coronavirus is causing a lot of us to be more conscious of germs. They said that workers will still be available to help customers who have trouble doing the checkouts themselves. Depending on the success of the test run, Walmart could expand the program to more stores, which you see is kind of going. I believe the store in my city, they used to have maybe had 6 to 8 checkouts. Now they're like close to 20-something self-checkout centers. The retailer recently launched a touch-free payment system also aimed at helping mitigate the spread of the coronavirus. Health officials ordered the closure of a Walmart in suburban Denver in April after 3 people connected to the store died after being infected with the coronavirus, and at least 6 employees tested positive. So, as you can see, this is to have that many people be harmed with the coronavirus and sadly died. That self-checkout option is a great thing. And a lot of self-checkouts as well, they do have sprayers where you can spray like the place that you scan or lay your stuff on. So, one thing about coronavirus is causing people to be more sanitary, which is a good thing in my book. Another story, speaking on the coronavirus subject, you heard the President Trump, he talked about the hydrochloroquine, and he's a big proponent of that. There are some groups trying to talk bad about it, but, I constantly see tonic water, which contains hydrochloroquine, is not on the shelf. So people are buying this hydrochloroquine. This story here states that the FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration, they pulls emergency use authorization of hydrochloroquine for COVID-19. And this story is by Erica Edwards, and it reads, the Food and Drug Administration rescinded the emergency use authorization for hydrochloroquine to treat hospitalized COVID-19 patients on Monday, saying the drug carries too many risks without any apparent benefit. So, I don't know, folks. I know some stuff about the Food and Drug Administration, and a lot of stuff that is natural is most of the times, deemed it's not authorized by the FDA. But, some of that stuff still does work, even though the FDA disapproves of it. I think it's more likely a money thing, so to speak. If they're not getting no money for a certain thing, they're going to say it's not approved. But you be the judge of that. And it states the authorization was first issued in March and applied to patients hospitalized with the illness and those in clinical trials. In April, the FDA warned doctors against prescribing the drug to COVID-19 patients outside of those settings. Monday's actions will not affect clinical trials, which are expected to continue. So that's a great thing. They're not officially ruling it out, but they're saying that, hey, let's run some clinical trials first. So those people who are in desperate need of it, if they're having those clinical trials, they can still hopefully receive the benefit of hydrochloroquine. And it says the announcement covers both hydrochloroquine and a related compound, chloroquine phosphate. It's just interesting how these new, I think new medical technologies are going to be coming out. New scientific breakthroughs are going to be coming out. Given that the fact, we're in an unprecedented time. And it says, the decades-old drug are traditionally used to treat malaria and certain autoimmune conditions, including lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. And the FDA's announcement does not apply to those uses. So it doesn't apply to lupus and arthritis if you're suffering with those conditions. Reading on, hydrochloroquine's first gained attention as a potential COVID-19 treatment in February when 2 small studies suggested that it might be useful against the virus. President Donald Trump encouraged its use as well, saying that he had taken the medication to treat and prevent any type of COVID-19 infections. So that's some interesting news there, something that you can look up yourself and read up more about hydrochloroquine. Just a little news. Honestly, I have so much different stories to cover. I'm just going to go through them and study it. We're going to talk about some coronavirus news. We're going to talk about some scientific news. We're going to talk about some world government, military news. But all in all, it's for your benefit so that you can be well informed about what's going on in the world. Speaking of some science here, it states that scientists are baffled after a 50,000-year-old lake mysteriously changes color. So, a lot of people, you hear about carbon dating, and some people are saying that the Earth is this many years old. Some say in the religious communities that no, it's only this many years old. We were not there, so we can't tell what it was. But for this article's sake, I'll read it here from what scientists are saying. In the religious communities, I know they're saying, no, the Earth is this many years old, but, and I see the religious community side on that. But just covering this article about the color of the lake changing, it says that a massive meteorite collided with Earth's surface at an unimaginable high speed of 55,923 miles an hour. It impacted and created a large crater in India, and that has transformed into a lake over time. Now, scientists are baffled after the lake waters recently and subtly changed from green to pink. So they're saying 50,000 years ago, and I don't know how they're coming up with these numbers, but they're saying that 50,000 years ago, a meteorite hit over in India, and it's now causing the lake here to change from the color of green to pink. So it says this isn't the first time that the lake has puzzled scientists. It says the origins of the lake confused scientists in the past, and some geologists questioned whether it was actually a volcano crater due to its location in a massive expanse of flat land made up of basalt salt rock left behind volcanic eruptions believed to have occurred 65 million years ago, according to NASA. Like I said, I don't know how they come up with these years and how many millions and the millions of this and that, but, It says, however, today's scientists have confirmed Lunar Center crater is the result of a meteorite impact that occurred between 35,000 and 50,000 years ago, NASA reported. So, this crater is in Mumbai in India. To all my fans over in India, I most definitely would love to have you write me about this crater here in Mumbai. And it says hills of ancient ruins and Hindu temples surrounded the crater lake, which is 7 times saltier than seawater. Wow. It also is known as the world's oldest basaltic rock meteorite crater in the world. So, and there's a picture of it changing colors here. We're living in some interesting times, folks. And with that being said, we don't know what tomorrow may bring, but I will say there is a song I used to hear about when I was younger, and it states that time is filled with swift transitions. And later in that song, it tells you, you better build your hopes on things eternal and to hold to God's unchanging hand. So God's unchanging hand, whatever goes on in the world, we can most definitely keep our minds situated as long as we stay in the book, which is the good book. Just a little bit of world news I want to cover here. It says Taiwan jets drive away, intruding Chinese fighter planes, third intrusion in days. So, we have civil unrest going on stateside. We have coronavirus affecting the country. We have the protests and the police killings. And on top of that as well, we have more world news with wars going on. One thing about the scriptures, it says that there will be wars and rumors of wars. So there is, there's no way that, these things should take us by surprise, because the good book has told us that these things will come to pass. And as I stated some shows back, it is only the beginning of sorrows. Now, reading on, it says Taiwan jets drive away, intruding Chinese fighter planes. It's the third intrusion in days, and this is a article here covering, and it's from Reuters. And it says that Taiwan Air Force jets drove away a Chinese fighter plane that briefly entered Taiwan's air defense identification zone on Tuesday, the defense ministry said, reporting the third intrusion in a week. So they're not giving up. It's pretty steady. Those type of things can cause wars. It says the single J-10 fighter was given radio warnings to leave before the Taiwanese Air Force jets ushered the intruder out of the airspace southwest of the island, the ministry said. On Tuesday last week, the ministry said several Su-30 fighters, some of China's most advanced jets, crossed into the same airspace that were also warned to leave. On Friday, the ministry said a Chinese Y-8, a propeller aircraft based on a Soviet-era design, some of which have been retrofitted as surveillance aircraft, was warned to by Taiwan's Air Force to leave the airspace again in the southwest. So there's some drum beats rolling on in the world. Wars and rumors of wars. It's coming. We can't fight it. We can't hide it. It's something that will happen, unfortunately. A little bit more of world news I'm covering for our world fans. It says that emergency meeting held in South Korea after Kim Jong-un's sister threatens military action. So she is the brother of Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-un, excuse me. She's her brother, and I heard that she was more ruthless than her brother. And I've heard that she gets into power is going to be real worse than the son and his father was. This story is by a Stella Kim, and it reads, South Korea convened an emergency security meeting Sunday after the sister of North Korea's leader threatened military action against South Korea in the latest escalation of tensions between the two neighbors. So both of those countries are going back and forth, and it's getting bad, folks. Kim Yo-jong, a trusted aide to her brother, Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un, said she would leave the right to take the next step of retaliation against South Korea to North Korea's military in a statement carried Sunday by the state news agency KCNA. North Korea is considered a very secretive country, and I know some folks from North Korea. Back in the 50s and 40s, there was a gentleman that I know. He escaped North Korea and went to South Korea. He ended up, landing on a farm. Ended up marrying, one of the daughters of the farm man there, and they talk about North Korea, and whatever family he had over there, he probably hasn't seen them in ages. So, it's really tough about what's going on in North Korea, but it's getting worse. And it reads, she said, I feel it is high time to break with the South Korean authorities. We will soon take the next action. A spokesman for the Blue House, South Korea's presidential office, said Sunday that the National Security Council held an emergency video conference to review the situation and to discuss how best to respond. The Unification Ministry, which handles relations with North Korea, said in a statement that the Koreans must do their best to abide by all inter-Korean agreements. And it kind of blows my mind because all of these guys are together for some reason. We'll continue on with this story. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll finish up this story amongst our others on the GBC. Welcome back to the GBC. I'm your host, the Honorable WMII, and I'm, want to finish up the rest of these stories. But before I do, I would like to let you know again if you would like to have sponsorship with our program where we can put your messages out there across the whole world. You can email me at thehonorableWM2, it's the number 2, at gmail.com. That's thehonorableWM2 at gmail.com. Also, if you would like to support our program or donate to our program, my cash app is $, all capital letters, is $THWMII. That's $THWMII. And we appreciate anything that you donate to us as well. I want to continue on with our story here about the North Korea leader. She's looking at having some action against South Korea. I've been reading a lot in the news lately about the trouble that's going on over there. And every time you read, there's always something going on. I recently also heard that there was a bombing at a facility as well. So, tensions are sparking up all across the country. It says the Unification Ministry, which handles relations with North Korea, said in a statement that the Koreans must do their best to abide by all inter-Korean agreements. And I have a photo of her here, Mrs. Kim Yo-jong. She's the sister of the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un. And, she means business. And it says South Korea's defense ministry said separately that it was seriously assessing the situation and carefully monitoring North Korean movements. It said that South Korean military is maintaining a resolute military readiness to respond to all situations. Kim's statement Saturday following her announcement last week that North Korea was suspending all communications lines with South Korea, a move analysts believe could be an attempt to cause further military escalation. So my thoughts and prayers are with the Korean people. And if you think about it, they actually are the same people living on a land that's just separated by a boundary, the DMZ. And hopefully they'll be able to have some type of peace and not war. More world news I'm getting into here along the United States as well. It says that 3 U.S. Navy aircraft carriers are patrolling the Pacific Ocean at the same time. And China's not happy. The Pacific over there, China, United States is some boundary lines that these guys are trying to enforce. And it says, it's from CNN World, and it says the deployment of 3 100,000-ton U.S. Navy aircraft carriers to the Pacific Ocean for the first time in years has drawn swift reaction from China, with state-sponsored media saying Beijing will not back down to defend its interests in the region. Reading on. It says the USS Ronald Reagan and the USS Theodore Roosevelt are both patrolling in the Western Pacific, while the USS Nimitz is in the East, according to U.S. Navy press releases. With each vessel containing more than 60 aircraft. Wow, each vessel contains, that's like close to one, and it says more, so that's probably close to 200 aircraft altogether. It represents the biggest deployment of U.S. aircraft carriers in the Pacific since 2017, when tensions with North Korea over Pyongyang's nuclear weapons program were at their peak. So that is, it's getting crazy out here. As I stated earlier, the good book tells us when Christ talked, he said that there was going to be wars and rumors of wars. So, prophecy is being fulfilled, folks. And I told you on the first broadcast we aired that this was only the beginning of sorrow. So God has prophecies being fulfilled today that we're seeing more and more sorrow situations and conditions. Moving on here, it says U.S. fighters have rushed to intercept 8 Russian bombers approaching Alaska. Now, Alaska is part of the United States in the past week. And this is from the Business Insider here. And it says, and Yahoo News as well, it says, U.S. fighter aircraft have been called out to intercept 8 Russian bomber aircraft in the past week, according to the North American Aerospace Defense Command. A total of 4 intercepts have taken place, with 2 occurring last Wednesday and another 2 happening Tuesday evening. In one instance, Russian aircraft came within just 20 nautical miles of the United States shores. NORAD said that Russian aircraft have penetrated its air defense identification zones 8 times this year, indicating an uptick in Russian air activity near North America. So we've been hearing a lot of stuff about Russians getting close to our shores. I remember last year there was a story about there was some Russian submarines near Savannah, Georgia, and now you're hearing about the air force here in the Russian Air Force and their whatever their name is. They're getting close to Alaska. And it says that United States Air Force F-22 Raptors have intercepted 8 Russian bombers approaching Alaska in the past week as Russia steps up its air patrols near the United States. So there's a picture here of that. There's a lot of uncertainty going on in the world. Russia and United States, I just hope. I remember as a young child, I used to hear about Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev, and they signed those treaties, but there's some back and forth and still going on in the country. Now, moving on to another story. This is not bombers, but it's more of a scientific front. It says, blowing bubbles, soapy spears pop pollen on fruit trees. Japanese researchers have succeeded in fertilizing pear trees using pollen carried on the thin film of a soap bubble. They've been searching for alternative approaches to pollination because of the decline in the number of bees worldwide. When fired from a bubble gun, the delicate soapy spears achieve a success rate of 95%. The researchers are now testing drones that fire bubbles for pollination. So science is increasing. There's all type of different things that's going to come, new inventions, as the Bible says. But any of these new inventions that may happen, we must always, as I say, look to the Word of God. There has been a decline in bees worldwide. As you know, bees help, make honey and get, and all that good stuff. They pollinate it. And this new technology is going to carry some more pollen. So that's a lot of our news tonight. I just want to say I thank you all for your support, and I'm going to be diligent in covering these stories worldwide for you.
Thank you for listening to the worldwide transmission of the GBC with the Honorable WMII.